The sound of the police scanner filled the quiet living room like a storm breaking the silence. Ethan's father, Officer Daniel Hayes, sat on the edge of the couch, his SWAT gear still lying heavy by the door. He was used to calls that shook. Neighborhoods, robberies, standoffs, crises, but nothing prepared him for the report that came through that night. Disturbance reported at Willow Park. Caller claims, a dangerous child. A child. Ethan, sitting at the kitchen table, froze. His dad's eyebrows tightened in confusion, then frustration. In their city, resources were precious. Every call mattered, and yet here was someone dialing emergency lines over a child. The Hayes family knew the reputation of the caller long before dispatch confirmed her name. Mrs. Kensington, known by everyone as Karen, she had a way of turning minor inconveniences into catastrophes, wielding her phone like a sword. But this time, she had gone too far. Daniel's jaw clenched. He wasn't just a SWAT officer, he was a father. He couldn't stand the idea of a child being dragged into fear because someone decided to teach them a lesson. Ethan leaned forward, whispering, "Dad, they said it's a kid. What if it's someone I know?" Daniel rose to his feet, pulling his vest closer. He looked at his son with steady eyes. "Then tonight, we're not just responding to a call. We're protecting someone's childhood." The engine of the cruiser roared to life, and for Ethan, this was the night he realized that heroes didn't just fight crime. They fought injustice, even when it hid behind a neighbor's front porch. Willow Park, usually alive with the laughter of children, now sat under the harsh glare of flashing police lights. Daniel's cruiser slowed as he spotted 2 squad cars already parked at the curb. Officers stood uneasily near the swings, exchanging puzzled looks. And in the center of it all, one small figure, no older than 10, sitting on the cold grass with wide, tearful eyes. The boy clutched a toy airplane, its wing cracked, its colors fading. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't resisting. He was just scared. Ethan's heart sank as he recognized him, Liam, his classmate from school. The quiet kid who loved drawing airplanes more than anything else. And then she appeared. Mrs. Kensington. Karen, with her arms folded tight, standing tall as if she'd conquered a criminal empire. Her voice rang out, sharp and dramatic. "There, he is. That's the child who's been terrorizing this neighborhood. He threw that toy across my yard and nearly hit me. Dangerous, unstable." Ethan couldn't believe it. A broken toy airplane had brought squad cars, sirens, and officers to this park. Liam looked like he wanted to disappear. His tiny voice barely carried as he whispered, "I didn't mean to. It was the wind." Daniel stepped forward, his presence commanding but calm. The other officers instinctively moved aside. After all, he wasn't just another cop. He was SWAT. And when SWAT showed up, people listened. He crouched down beside Liam, softening his tone. "Hey, buddy, did you hurt anyone?" Liam shook his head quickly, clutching his toy tighter. Daniel glanced back at Karen, who was all ready, pulling out her phone again, threatening to escalate. Ethan felt his father's anger simmer, but he also knew that Daniel wasn't a man who raised his voice. He was a man who spoke truth so firmly, no one dared to argue. The park was silent, except for the hum of engines. Officers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to treat this as a real threat or a ridiculous misunderstanding. Karen's shrill words filled the night air. "If you don't arrest him, you're all neglecting your duty. He's disturbed. He needs to be taught a lesson before it's too late." Daniel rose slowly to his full height, the kind of rise that made even seasoned officers stand straighter. He walked toward Karen, his boots crunching on the gravel, and stopped just inches from her. His voice was low, steady, but carried enough weight to hush the entire park. "Ma'am, let me be absolutely clear. Calling emergency services on a child playing with a toy is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Do you understand how many real emergencies we handle every night? People could lose their lives while officers respond to calls like this. Karen scoffed, tilting her head. So you're saying I should ignore threats in my own neighborhood? Threats? Daniel's eyes narrowed. That boy is holding a plastic airplane, not a weapon. The only danger here is the fear you've put in him by treating childhood as a crime. For the first time, Karen faltered. Her bravado slipped as she glanced around, noticing the officers nodding subtly in agreement. Ethan watched, a swell of pride in his chest. His father wasn't yelling, wasn't humiliating. He was simply drawing a line between what was just and what was cruel. Daniel turned, kneeling beside Liam once more. Son, you're safe. No one here is taking you anywhere. You keep that airplane and you keep flying it as high as you dream. The boy's tears turned into the faintest smile, fragile but real. For Ethan, it was a moment burned into memory. The night his father didn't just stop a false call, he stopped fear from stealing a child's joy. The officers slowly began to disperse, some shaking their heads at the absurdity of the night. Yet Karen wasn't finished. Her pride was wounded, and she refused to step away quietly. This isn't over, she hissed. If something happens because of that boy, it's on you. Daniel didn't answer. Sometimes silence spoke louder than 1,000 words. He simply placed a reassuring hand on Liam's shoulder, then looked toward the other parents who had begun to gather at the park's edge. Whispers floated through the cool air, neighbors who had watched everything unfold, their faces a mixture of shock and sympathy. One mother stepped forward, clutching her daughter's hand. That's my son's best friend, she said firmly. He's never hurt anyone. He just dreams a little bigger than most kids. Isn't that what we should protect? The crowd murmured in agreement. And for the first time, Karen looked truly isolated. No allies, no supportive nods. Just silence. Ethan realized something powerful then. Justice wasn't always about handcuffs or sirens. Sometimes it was about truth echoing louder than lies, about a community seeing past fear and choosing compassion. Daniel finally broke the silence, addressing the crowd instead of Karen. Tonight is a reminder. Our children should feel safe, to play, to imagine, to grow. When we respond to them with fear, we take away more than their toys. We take away their innocence. Let's not allow that to happen. The words hung in the air like a promise. Liam, still holding his plane, looked up at Ethan with a glimmer of hope. For the first time that night, he wasn't just a frightened boy in the grass. He was a child being seen, defended, and believed. Later that evening, as the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed, Ethan and Liam walked side by side toward the swings. Neither spoke at first. The weight of the night was heavy on both. Then Liam whispered, I thought they were going to take me away. Ethan shook his head firmly. Not with my dad there. He'd never let that happen. Liam's small fingers traced the edge of his airplane. Why did she hate me so much? Ethan didn't know how to answer, but his father did. Daniel, standing a few feet away, stepped closer. Sometimes, son, people let their fears turn into anger. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It means they've forgotten how to see clearly. The boy's eyes glistened, but his shoulders relaxed. For Ethan, watching his father speak so gently yet firmly was like watching a teacher who taught lessons no classroom could hold. That night wasn't just about protecting Liam. It was about teaching every child there that their worth wasn't up for debate. The three of them sat quietly for a moment. The hum of the streetlights, the creak of the swings, the cool breeze, carrying the smell of cut grass. It all felt cinematic, like the kind of scene that stayed in your heart forever. Ethan realized that what had started as just another call on the police scanner had become a defining chapter in his life. And as Karen stormed home alone, doors slamming behind her, Ethan knew her voice would never carry the same weight in the neighborhood again. People had seen the truth, and truth was stronger than fear. Back at home, the Hayes living room felt different. Ethan watched his father carefully place his SWAT vest back in the closet, not as armor, but as a reminder of the night's meaning. Daniel wasn't just a man who faced danger. He was a man who protected dignity. Ethan couldn't hold back his curiosity. "Dad, when you stood up to her, weren't you afraid she twisted against you?" Daniel smiled softly, settling into the couch. "Fear only wins if we let it. My badge doesn't just mean authority. It means responsibility. Tonight, responsibility was making sure a child knew he wasn't alone." The words sank deep into Ethan's heart. He had always admired his father's strength, but tonight he admired something greater: his courage to be gentle, his power to protect without violence, his wisdom to speak when others stayed silent. As the night stretched on, Ethan found himself staring at the toy airplane Liam had accidentally left behind. He picked it up, running his thumb over the cracked wing. In that small piece of plastic, he saw everything: dreams, innocence, and the fragile beauty of childhood that needed protecting. His father looked over, nodding toward the plane. "Hold on to that, son. One day you'll understand why some battles aren't about fighting, they're about standing." Weeks later, the park was alive again with laughter. Children ran across the grass, parents sat on benches, and Liam's airplane soared higher than ever, its wing carefully mended with tape. Karen no longer haunted the playground with her complaints. She had been quietly warned by the city about misusing emergency lines, and the weight of community eyes made her presence scarce. Ethan and Liam sat side by side, their friendship stronger than ever. Every time the airplane took flight, Liam would grin, and Ethan would remember that night. The night when childhood almost crumbled under the weight of fear, but was saved by compassion. Daniel often watched from the sidelines, his expression calm but proud. He knew his son had witnessed something important. That authority isn't about control, it's about service. That true strength is measured not by how loud you are, but by how deeply you protect what matters most. Ethan held onto the memory like a movie reel playing in his heart, a reminder that sometimes the most dramatic battles happen not in war zones, but in neighborhoods, between truth and misunderstanding. And as the sun dipped low, casting golden light over Willow Park, one thing was certain: Karen's call may have shaken the night, but it had also revealed something unshakable: the heart of a father, the power of community, and the unbreakable innocence of a child's dream.